Hi, hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I love beauty and makeup and skincare. My makeup collection is huge. A lot of it I have had for many years. I know in my mind, like logically, I know that a lot of things are expired or at least past the expiration date that they're given, but we all know that you can use things past their expiration date and be just fine, like as long as they don't smell terrible or are growing mold and stuff. That's sort of my general rule for makeup in general in terms of keeping things past what they say that they can be used for. The expiration date is just what the manufacturer can guarantee that it'll be good through. To start off 2024, I wanted to do some declutters, and I have decluttered foundations, concealers, primers, powders, bronzers, blush, highlighters. So basically base products. Any color products that you can put on your face that doesn't have to do with your eyes are what I have decluttered. So in this box are foundations, concealers, primers, and powders. I have a feeling it's going to take a very long time, so I think I'll probably divide this up into one video for this stuff, and then I'll do another video with bronzers, blushes, and highlighters. I tried to be somewhat hard in my decisions of really thinking about if I've reached for any of these products in the last year. Generally, if the answer was no, then I decluttered it. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, I'm gonna start with powders. This is the Laura Geller Balance and Brighten. It's a foundation, and I used to be into powder foundations a long time ago. When I did a powder declutter at the beginning of last year, I got rid of the other colors of this. This is in the shade Porcelain, which is more of my correct shade. But I really I don't use powder foundations. Sometimes I have a couple that I'll use if I need a little bit more coverage on acne spots or something. If I'm going to do that, this is not the one that I reach for, and I know that this is many years old. So I'm saying goodbye to Laura Geller. All right, Burt's Bees, also a powder foundation in the shade Vanilla. I used a lot of it, and I just don't use it anymore, so it's got to go. This L'Oreal Infallible Freshwear, also a powder foundation, and it's also cracked, and I just don't use it. It's got to go. Burberry, also powder foundation in the shade Trench. It's honestly a little bit yellow-ish for me, but I made a pretty good dent in it when I did use it. I just haven't reached for this in years, and although I love the packaging, it's not a reason to keep it around, so this is leaving. NARS Soft Velvet Loose Powder. This is in the shade Eden, which is not a good shade for me. It's a little bit dark and a little bit yellow, and I don't reach for it, so I'm decluttering it. The Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Diffuse Light. It's basically gone, and I just haven't been reaching for it to finish it out, so it's gotta go. Last powder is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural in the shade Light. I just don't ever reach for it, and as you can tell by the packaging, I think they've changed packaging. Maybe I'm making that up. But I haven't used this in years, so I'm decluttering it. All right, moving on to primers. The NYX Plump Right Back. I just don't reach for it. It's not really anything special. It kind of adds a little bit of hydration. If I'm using a primer like this, where it's clear, whatever, I'm probably going to be wanting to use a gripping primer like the e.l.f. So I just don't reach for this, and I haven't used it in 6 to 8 months, so I'm decluttering it. Milk Makeup Blur Stick. I've had it for years and years, and it's kind of dried up some, and if I'm going to use a blurring or pore filling primer, I like the e.l.f. Putty Primer. This, I think I used it one time and I didn't really like it because it was kind of already dried up, so I don't know why I've even held on to it, but this is going. Maybelline 4-in-1 Perfector. Feel like I only used it a couple times and it's just like a little bit too dark. It's in the shade Fair Light, but like it is kind of dark. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of like separating in the packaging. And because it's like airlocked, there's not really a good way to mix it up. I just wasn't really that big of a fan of how it looked on the skin, so this has got to go. Essence Hello Good Stuff Glow Serum Primer. I think this is supposed to be a dupe for the Glow Recipe Primer. I'm not sure. Again, if I'm going to use like a serum-y type primer, I would rather use the e.l.f. gripping primer. Otherwise, I like to use the Auric Glow Lust basically as a primer. So I just don't ever use this, which is why I'm decluttering it. e.l.f. Luminous Putty Primer. It's kind of yellow. It's kind of started to pull away from the sides, so like it's dried up a little bit. And if I'm using a luminous primer, again, the Auric Glow Lust is my favorite. I would much rather use that. And this isn't really all that pore filling like the putty primer, like the regular one is. So that's why I'm decluttering this. Charlotte Tilbury, the Flawless Filter. This is in the shade Too Fair. It's kind of too like orangey peachy, and I've used a pretty good amount. Like as you can see, there's some emptiness in the thing. Again, I would much rather use the Auric Glow Lust as this type of product, and I like the coverage and finish that the Auric gives much better than this. And I still have the e.l.f. Halo whatever that is similar to this, which is newer to my collection than this is. I've had this for quite some time. I don't really get the hype of this, I guess. So I'm decluttering it. Tatcha, the Liquid Silk Canvas. I can't remember. This might have been from a Sephora birthday reward. Maybe I don't get the Tatcha hype, and every time I used it I did not like how my makeup looked, so I'm decluttering this. Last primer is the Wet n Wild Glass Correct primer. It's pretty not glowy, but gives like a wet look to the skin, but even though it's green, it doesn't really do much redness correcting. And I like the L'Oreal redness corrector primer thing that I've been using more than this, but I feel like I've used about maybe about half of this, so I don't feel that bad about decluttering it. Moving on to concealers, and starting with correctors. This is the Becca Under Eye Corrector. I hit pan, but Becca is no more. Like, this is from when it was Becca, not since Smashbox bought it, but it's starting to get a smell, so I don't want to use it anymore. And I've noticed lately, or like the last few times that I used it, it was kind of like thick looking under the eye, so I'm decluttering it. And then this NYX Green Color Corrector. Again, I like the L'Oreal Redness Eraser Primer that I've been using to do green color correcting. And then I also have the Exa Green Color Corrector, which I enjoy the formula of over this, so I'm decluttering it. Onto concealers, and starting with this one, which is like a brightening concealer. It's the e.l.f. Flawless Brightening Concealer. It's in the shade Light. I made a pretty good valiant effort at using this up. I feel like I used about 3/4 of it, and I just kind of got tired of using it, and I don't reach for it, so I'm decluttering it. Makeup Forever Full Cover in the shade 4. 1, it's a little bit dark for me. 2, it's like years and years and years old. The formula has kind of changed in the tube, and really I used like almost all of this up. For a while it was my favorite like spot concealing concealer. I just haven't used it in over a year, and I know that it's really old, so I'm decluttering it. The NARS Soft Matte, but this is in the shade Light 2.5 Creme Brulee. It's just too dark for me. There was a couple summers ago where I was just outside in the sun a little bit more, and it matched me more, but since then I haven't been in the sun enough where like I'm tan enough that this matches me, and I don't really foresee myself being dark enough where this would match me, so I'm decluttering it. Hourglass, this is the shade Silk. I've had this for a very long time. It has a really nasty scent to it, and it's too dark for me, so I'm decluttering it. Bare Minerals Bare Pro Concealer in Light Natural. I actually quite like the formula of this, but they don't make it anymore, and they haven't for quite some time, which means that I've had this for a very long time, and I just don't reach for it, so I'm decluttering it. Maybelline Fit Me, I have the shades 15 and 5. 15 is just way too dark, and 5 is an okay color match, but I just don't reach for them. I think these are supposed to be dupes for the NARS creamy concealer, which I really enjoyed using that when I had it. I haven't used that, or I haven't had that in long enough to remember what the formula is and whether or not this actually is like a good comparison to that, but I really just don't reach for these, and I've had them for quite a while, so I'm decluttering them. Item Beauty Concealer in the shades Air Hug and nope, it's called the Air Hug Concealer, shade 100 and 200. 200 is too dark for me, 100 is kind of too light for me. When I mix them together, they created more of a perfect shade. I don't reach for them, and this brand no longer exists, so I'm decluttering them. Typology in the shade, I think just 01. Oh, Concealer Type 1 Fair. It is kind of just a little bit too dark for me for being a fair shade. Plus, I've had this for many years, and Typology is one of those brands where like it's more natural. It's a company based in France, and everything is made in France. It's like a skincare company that started doing color cosmetic products. I've just had this for a really long time, and I think it has like a little bit of a smell, but again, because it's too dark for me, I just don't reach for it. I'm not sure if they've come out with a lighter shade since then. The skin tint of them that I have, I really enjoy. Those are something that's going to be decluttered because I've had them for a long time and they started to develop a little bit of an odor, so I'm decluttering this. Kosas concealers, I have the shades 2.5, 1.5, and 1. 2.5 and 1.5 are actually quite like almost empty. I'm like started to scrape the sides of them. 1, there's more left in it, but this smells bad. They do not smell like they should, and all of them just aren't really the perfect shade for me, but they did come out with no new shades, and I had a Sephora like rouge reward thing, so I actually placed an order and a new shade of this was in that, so I'm kind of excited for that to come because I really love the formula of this. Just all of these just aren't quite the right shade. I kind of had to do a lot of mixing, so I'm really hoping that the new shades that they came out, I'm hoping that the one that I chose is like my perfect shade because I love the formula of these, but these have got to go. The NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum. This is in the shade Vanilla, which is a bit too dark for me, but I do have a lighter shade of this, and I love the formula of this. It's pretty lightweight. It doesn't have a lot of coverage, but I enjoy using this as like an all-over foundation product. But this one is too dark, and I've had it for a very long time, so I'm decluttering it. Fit Glow Beauty. This is in the shade 2. It's too dark for me. It kind of is starting to get a smell, and like I feel like the product has thickened over time, which is kind of saying a lot because it starts out quite thick. Something about Fit Glow, I like the glosses that I have of theirs, but like I don't know, I kind of feel like it's overrated, or at least it shouldn't be as expensive as it is. And the shades of the concealers are just kind of weird, but anyways, this one is leaving. All right, the Revolution IRL Filter Finish Soft Matte Concealer in the shade C2. It has a smell, And I feel like, well, I mean, I bought it in 2022, so I guess, but I haven't used it for the past year, so, and because it has a smell, it's going in the trash. Thrive, the buildable blur. This is in the shade Light, and it's too dark for me. I never really got to even like fully decide if I liked the formula of it or not, because it was too dark from the get-go, and because Thrive, like, you can't return things and like you can't see the colors in store, so I was kind of just guessing based on the photos online, which is kind of disappointing, but I don't know, it's too dark and I just don't use it. So maybe it's great, I'll never know. ColourPop Pretty Fresh. This is in the shade Light 40N. It's a little bit too dark for me, and it's developed quite a bad smell, so it's got to go. Pat McGrath Labs in the shades L1 and L2. The last time I used this, I just didn't like the finish on my skin. Like, it looked weird. It was kind of like drying. One of them kind of has a weird scent, but because the last time I used this, I didn't like how my makeup looked, I'm decluttering both of these. Kulfi, this is in the shade Ice Ice Berry. I actually quite like the formula of this concealer, but this shade in particular is too dark. But they have since come out with lighter shades, and I did get the one of the lighter shades of it, so I've kept that one, but this one, because it's too dark, I don't use it, and I'm decluttering it. Last concealer, the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. Like, it's super separated. I haven't used it in a very long time. It smells bad, so I'm decluttering it. All right, just kidding. I had one more concealer. This is the Flower Light Illusion. This is in the shade Ivory. I think this is supposed to be a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury concealer. I'm not sure, but it smells bad, so I'm decluttering it. All right, that actually was the last concealer, so now on to foundations, which there's so many of them. Okay, first up, Neutrogena Hydro Boost. This is in the shade Nude 40. I've used quite a lot of it, but it is too dark for me, and I have since purchased a lighter shade of it because I like the formula so much. But this darker one has got to go, and it has started to smell bad, so goodbye. The NYX Bear With Me Tinted Skin Veil. They don't make these anymore. I have the shades True Beige Buff and Vanilla Nude. True Beige Buff, just completely the wrong color, and it's a little bit orange. Vanilla Nude is a little bit more of a better color because it's a little bit more desaturated, but it's still just like a little bit too dark. But anyways, they don't make these anymore, and they haven't for quite some time, so I'm just letting them go. The Makeup Atelier, this is in the shade Nude. It's too dark for me, and I've also used it for a very long time. When I got it, it was on like a super deep discount on Beautylish, I think because they were just trying to clear out like extra stock of it, maybe because they stopped carrying this brand, I'm not sure, but that makes me think that it was like kind of old when I first got it, and I've had it for quite some time, so it's got to go because it's the wrong color. I don't use it. The L'Oreal Skin Paradise, this is in the shade Fair 03. I don't know what it is about drugstore foundations and just like base products in general. They all, like all of the lighter fair shades, just always tend to lean quite orange, and I just like feel like I can't ever get a good shade. So I don't even really remember if I liked the formula of this because the color of it was so bad for me. I just didn't ever use it. I'm not even sure they make this anymore. Anyways, I'm decluttering it. The Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator, this is in the shade Fair. It's a little bit of, well, no, even as I open it, it looks like it's kind of orange. I don't know. I think I kind of like the formula of this, but again, just the color is so bad, so decluttering it. L'Oreal Age Perfect, the Tinted Balm. I love the formula of this. It feels wonderful. This one's kind of pulling away from the side, so it's kind of starting to dry up, but like these just, I don't know that it's really picking up, but they're so orange leaning. They're just terrible. And the shade range of this in general, like I think there was 5 shades. It's just a bad shade range. I think the Fair 20 was like a little bit better for me, which is like the one that I could make work, but like I don't know. I think I'm maybe growing into the mindset of like I shouldn't have to make anything work. If it's not working, I should just get rid of it. Because I have to make it work, I'm not going to be reaching for it, so it should just go. So both of these are being decluttered. The NYX Bear With Me Tinted Skin Serum. This is in the shade light medium. It's too dark. I think I kept the lighter color of it that I have. I actually quite like the formula of this. It's really lightweight. There's not a lot of coverage, but I like the finish that it gives to the skin. But this shade, it's just too dark. Milani, the Glow Hydrating Skin Tint, shade Fair to Light 110. It's so orange. It's just so orange. I think I like the formula of it, but because it's so orange, I'm not gonna use it. Fit Makeup, the shades Fair and Porcelain. I actually quite liked the formula of these. It's from a brand where like makeup you can wear to the gym and sweat in and it's not gonna like clog your pores or anything. So I quite like the formula of these, but they're so old and I just don't reach for them. So they've got to go. Essence Fresh and Fit Healthy Glow. I have the shades 20 Fresh Nude and 10 Fresh Ivory. 10 Fresh Ivory is actually a pretty good shade match for me. It's pretty desaturated, so it looks like it's a little bit gray. But I just don't ever reach for these, and I've had them for a very long time. And I don't, like, if I'm not reaching for it, why keep it? So, goodbye. Clarins Skin Illusion Tint. They don't make this anymore. I've used about half of it. I actually quite like the formula of this. It's just like a little bit too dark and orange leaning. And because of that, again, I shouldn't have to make anything work, but I use this for quite a long time. Something about the Clarins products, it's like a little bit like, hard to pinpoint the smell. Like a little bit fruity, but not in like a fruity fruit way. I don't know. I enjoy the smell of this, but I don't use it anymore, so it's gotta go. Tom Ford Flawless Glow Foundation. I've used it to here, so like I used it a pretty good amount. I really loved the formula of this and the color match. It's in the shade 3.5 Ivory Rose. It's actually a pretty good shade match because it's desaturated and a little bit gray leaning. However, it's got octinoxate in it, and if I wear anything with octinoxate in it for more than a couple days in a row, I start breaking out. And because I've had this for quite a few number of years and I've used like about 3/4 of it, I feel okay decluttering this. Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint in the shade Balos. Don't know. It says on the bottom it expired in 2021. It has a real nasty smell. I actually quite like the formula of this. It's like real dewy on the skin, but when my skin was like super dry, it felt really nice. But again, it's smelled actually for quite a while, so why I held on to it, I have no idea. Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint in the shade G10. It's down to here, so it's basically used up, but it's a little bit too dark for me, and I have a lighter shade of it, and I don't actually even reach for the lighter shade that I have, but I haven't had that for that long. Well, I mean, I guess I got it in 2022, but anyways, I just don't reach for it that often, and if I do, I'm going to use the lighter shade of it. I think we're about halfway done with the foundations, so let's keep chugging along. Becca Skin Love Weightless Blur Foundation. I'm not even entirely sure that I ever actually used this. It's in the shade Shell. Becca is not a brand any longer, and it hasn't been for quite some time. Because I've never even used it, I'm decluttering it. Same goes for this one, the Becca Ultimate Coverage. It's in the shade Porcelain. I maybe used it one time, but again, I never reached for it, and Becca is no more. All right, last two Becca things, the Light Shifter Doing Tint. I have the shades Luminary 1 and Orbit 2. I actually quite liked to use these in the way that I use the Auric Glow Lust, and the shade Luminary 1 is actually the better shade match for me. And I'd say I used about 3/4 of it. I have one of these unopened that I am holding on to in case I want to maybe reach for it, but I've had both of these open for quite some time, so they've got to go. Laura Mercier, the Tinted Moisturizer of the shades 1N2 Vanille and 2N1 Nude. 2N1 Nude is too dark and too orange. The Vanille one is a little bit closer, but it's still a little bit too dark. I actually quite like the formula of these. However, the sunscreen in it is octinoxate, and again, if I wear it too many days in a row, I start to break out. So I'm just getting rid of these. Brands that are no more, the Bite Changemaker. I actually quite love this foundation. It was my favorite for quite some time. I have the shades L15 and L45. L45 used to be a pretty good shade for me, but I've noticed, I think I just maybe used to wear foundations that were too dark for me, mainly because I didn't really fully understand my like undertone and stuff. But anyways, the L45 is actually pretty close to being empty, and the L15 I picked up when like they were first going out of business or whatever, so they were like super cheap on Sephora. I haven't reached for these in a while. The last time I used them, they just like weren't really performing like they had been or should be, so these have got to go. All right, another brand that is no more, Flesh. These are the stick foundations. I have 3 of them. One, I think I got the darker one thinking that it could be like a bronzery shade. These were at Ulta when I had purchased them. I think the shade 07 Birthday Cake is the better match for me, but it's still a little bit on the darker side. However, I have no idea what happened with this brand. I feel like it's been out of business for quite a few years, which means that I've had these for quite a few years, and I didn't reach for them at all within the past year, so I'm decluttering them. Another stick foundation, this is the Milk Flex Foundation. Again, I have 3 shades. All of these I got from Marshalls, so like I honestly don't know how old they were when they had been at Marshalls, and I kind of like the formula of this. It doesn't have a lot of longevity to it. Like it breaks up pretty quickly as I'm wearing it, so like within, I don't know, 4 hours maybe, it basically starts to fade on my face. But these were okay while I used them. Again, I haven't used them in the past year, so I'm decluttering them. Last stick foundation, this is the Hourglass one in the shade Ivory. It's just too dark for me. I had gotten this one first, and then I later purchased a lighter shade. This one I've just had for like way too long, and because it's too dark, I don't use it. And since I have the lighter shade, which even the lighter shade that I have is like a little bit too dark, but if I wanted to use this, I would use that other shade. It's a pretty full coverage stick foundation, but on occasion, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But this shade in particular, I'm decluttering. Kosas, the Tinted Face Oil, which in the shade, the tone 2. This product no longer exists. I don't know if it has a bad smell to it yet, but Kosas products in general, they don't have like all the preservatives in it. So they're basically known for going off, like when they have the expiration date, like you kind of have to use it within that. I don't think I ever really got this to work for me. It kind of just sat on my skin. It never really sank in. I don't know, just not for me. All right, Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Plus. This is like 8 or more years old. I actually quite liked the formula of this. I'm not even sure the last time I used this. I think I was just holding on to it for funsies. I did actually, however, last time I was like inside a Sephora store, they had like the newer version of this, the matte velvet, it was only $10, so I actually picked one up. Maybe I should hold on to this to compare formulas, except this one's so old I don't even know if it performs the same as it did when I first got it, but it would be interesting to see. However, once I sort of for fun do a comparison, I will declutter this. By Terry Cover Expert. This particular foundation no longer exists. I had it in the shade 4 Rosy Beige. This was a favorite foundation for a very, very long time. This is almost empty, but the last time I tried using it, it didn't perform like it used to, so I'm decluttering it. I have these two Chanel foundations, the Vita Lumiere Aqua and the Perfection Lumiere Velvet. Both of these are like 8+ years old, and they both have octinoxate in them, so again, I can't wear them for very many days in a row. The Vita Lumiere Aqua, I actually really remember liking the formula. However, the last time I tried to wear this, it kind of like dried down pretty matte on my skin, which was a little weird. I would maybe be interested in trying this again because I believe they reformulated it to not have the octinoxate in it, which would be fantastic. And this one, I'm not even sure they make it anymore, but both of these are going. It Cosmetics CC Cream. I've got the original and the illumination one. The illumination one kind of has like glitter particles in it, but that one is in the shade Fair, which is a better color match than the Fair Light of the original that I have. But both of these I've had for a very long time, and I don't ever reach for them, so they're going. They're also kind of thick on the skin, and they don't, like, I feel like they just don't ever really sink in, or at least not from what I remember. But again, I haven't even used these in like at least 2 years, so who knows, maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm getting rid of these. Maybelline The Dream Radiant Liquid. This is in the shade 20 Classic Ivory. This is too dark and too orange for me. I don't even really think I got a good feel of how the formula was because the color was such a bad match, so I'm decluttering this. Burt's Bees The Goodness Glows in the shade Classic Ivory. This was an okay color match, and the formula was also okay, but I haven't reached for this in more than a year, so I'm decluttering it. The Ordinary Serum Foundation in the shade 1.2P Light Pink Undertones. It's too dark. I think I maybe only used it a couple times, and I haven't reached for it in over a year, so goodbye. Beauty Blender The Bounce Liquid Whip Longwear Foundation in the shade 1.10N. I used this a couple times. I think I maybe like the formula, but I don't know. I don't even know if they make this anymore. I don't know why it kind of weirds me out to use makeup from the Beauty Blender brand. I don't know, something I just can't really get my head around, I guess. So this, I remember it being okay, but I haven't reached for it in over a year, so it's going. Dior, their Face and Body Foundation. This is in the shade 1N. It's too dark, too orange for me. I have a lighter shade of it. It's still not the perfect shade, but it is better and newer to me than this one was. So I've kept the other one, but this shade I am saying goodbye to. Armani, the Power Fabric Foundation. This is in the shade 3.25, which is just the wrong color for me. I thought that I could try to mix in like the white and blue foundation adjusters that I have, but again, like if I have to make it work, I'm not gonna use it, so I'm just decluttering this. Estee Lauder, the Futurist Hydra Rescue. This one is in the shade 2C3 Fresco. It's too dark for me. It's started separating in the tube. I actually didn't mind the formula of this. Like, I liked the finish that it gave to the skin, but the sunscreen that they have in it is octinoxate. So if I wear it for too many days in a row, again, I start to break out. I have a lighter shade of it that is a better match for me that I'm holding on to for now, just because I do like the finish that it gives to the skin. It's just, can we take skincare out of makeup products, please? I don't, like, can we just not? I feel like there's too many, I don't know, like not everyone gets along with all of these like ingredients that they choose to put in foundations. Like, I don't know, that's just a pet peeve for mine. Like, let's just have foundation be foundation. If you're going to be wearing an SPF, your foundation is not going to be it. So, I don't know. That's my rant. Okay, goodbye. Lancome Renergy Lift Makeup. Again, octinoxate. I quite liked the formula of this. However, it's a little bit too dark for me. It's in the shade. What is the shade? C30, maybe? It's a little bit too dark, but I did enjoy the formula. But again, octinoxate, man. Just, ugh. I don't think they make this anymore, so goodbye. Alma by Sharon C. This is the one that's sold at Walmart. What's the shade? White Pearl. Maybe I'm gonna use this a couple times. I don't think I really liked how it sat on my skin, but I can't fully remember. But I haven't reached for it in over a year, so I'm decluttering it. Last up, the Typology, the skin tints. I had the shade 1 and 2. I thought that I was gonna end up being between the two, but really 1 is a pretty good shade match for me. I really enjoy this, but I'm decluttering it because they've sort of developed a smell. I would maybe purchase them again, but like not right now, you know? All right, I have one more primer. This is the Clarins Balm Beauté Eclair, or that's the French, the Beauty Flash Balm. I had been trying to use this up as a face mask, and as I feel it, there's maybe like one use left, but honestly, I don't want to use it as a face mask, and I'm not using it as a primer, so I'm just gonna declutter this. Here is the giant box of foundations, concealers, primers, and powders that I am decluttering. I don't even think I want to count them because I've already transferred them from one box to another. That just seems like too much for me. All right, that is my foundation, concealer, powder, and primer declutter. I love watching declutters, and I love watching all the stuff that people get rid of and finding out why they're getting rid of it. So hopefully you do too, and that's why you watch this video to begin with. But if you like this video, hit the like button. If you like stuff like this and want to see more of it, subscribe before you go. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.